This is the TV Podcast Industry's 2024 wrap-up and 2025 preview podcast. Welcome back, fellow witches, defenders, industrialists, ringers, boys and girls, alumni, Gothamites, and detectives to our annual recap of the year and our 2025 preview on TV Podcast Industries. Oh, so many shows that we covered this year. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow defenders and everyone else. I'm one of your other hosts, John.
And rounding out this trio and reminding everyone it is already 2025. Oh my God, it's 7 days in.
Mm-hmm.
I am Chris.
Happy New Year, everybody.
I know.
Yes, happy
Joyous
New Year.
Noel. Joyous Noel.
This is officially our first podcast of 2025, isn't it?
It is.
I couldn't work it out because we did so many podcasts on What If. We did one almost every single day, or two or three at a time, to catch up when we went over. I can't remember we haven't recorded in the new year. So happy New Year to everybody officially in 2025.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yes, Happy New Year.
So what we do each year at the end of the year and going into the new year, we have a look back at all the things we've covered over the year, some of the things we couldn't get around to covering, have a chat about those, and talk about the things we're going to be covering, if we get the time to cover them all, in 2025. Overall, give you guys some of the stats. 93 podcasts this year, so a little bit down on the previous year. But given that myself and John got married in 2024, and we were out of action for a little while after that, I think we did about almost 2 podcasts a week for the entire year, which is still up there. It's 7 podcasts shorter than our highest, I think, the previous year, which was 100 podcasts that year.
To be fair, we were going for quality over quantity this year, last year. That's kind of where we were always aiming for.
Yeah.
We always do quality.
I know. I'm trying to spit it here. This is my old
7 shorts is still not that bad. You know, if we were actually going for quality over quantity, we probably would have aimed for about 50 last year.
But there was too many good shows to discuss.
There certainly were. We started out the year with Marvel, and Marvel had a very light year last year. We only had 2 live action TV shows, an animated show, and a movie. And normally we have like 4 movies a year plus 4 or 5 TV shows.
I know, it was bliss. I mean, that's why we covered only 94. 7.
Yeah. Again, it was interesting with it. I think we're now at the tail end, or coming to the tail end of what was probably the writer's strike, the actor's strike, the COVID mess around that happened during to the MCU slates, which we've heard lots of background articles on, where they had plans upon plans upon plans, which all got deliriously shifted and tweaked and changed.
Yeah.
I think we're coming to the end of that. I think they've set themselves up for 2025 in an interesting way, but on the back of 2024, which is
and absolute proof that all of those articles saying that Marvel were cutting back because of the new owners taking over, absolute BS, total bullshit from those writers. You can see how many shows are coming up and how many movies are coming up in 2025.
They were just loading the gun.
They were absolutely put off by COVID and by the writer's strike and by the director's strike. That was the delays that caused it. They have to put these movies out. They are on the schedule. They are ready to go. They're setting them up for their next big Avengers movies coming down the line. So they will all be coming, and most of them in 2025 and 2026. But we started out the year with the first of the Marvel shows, with Marvel's Echo, 5-episode one-off, and very unusual for Marvel, all released in one day as well.
This was an interesting one. So we had discussed this. There was reshoots, there was a huge re-edit apparently from what it was, in terms of it was a longer show, edited down. I came out very positive on this show. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was definitely some bits where it was like, I can see what they did there, and it was, I feel, better for the edits down to the concise 5. There were elements where I was like, I would have preferred more here or there, like just nitpicking. But the introduction of Echo to the universe, the introduction and the usage of the Native American proper languages and culture piece touchstones and all that, really just what I was what I wanted and what I got out of that show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we said afterwards, the Assembled, the making of documentary on Echo, where they went into the background of the Choctaw Nation and the inspiration that they took from the Choctaw Nation to bring it into the show. It's fantastic. We'd seen Echo before in Hawkeye, of course, but it was great to see her in a central role in this show, and the return of kind of the action of Daredevil and the return of Kingpin into now the Marvel Universe, their first entry to the Marvel Universe, and we'll see lots more of that in 2025, which is really exciting because I know Charlie Cox was only in one episode of the show. Kingpin was much more central to this show, but having at least one fight scene between Daredevil and Echo that felt like the action sequence,
and it was a great fight scene as well.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was really good to have that. I think as an opener. Again, I guess my only thing would be, not to sound like a broken record, but I do prefer it released weekly.
Yeah, without a doubt.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, I don't know what choices producers or executive producers come to, or the scheduling on a platform, why they come to a decision to release, something like Echo all at once.
Yeah.
And then Agatha all along to give it that breathing space across its 8 episodes. But I just think they should, I don't know. I just feel it's much better for the property and creatively to have just that breathing space for the episodes to breathe, for people to get excited about what's just happened in the cliffhanger, and to have that anticipation of the next release. I just feel like, even if they just released them 5 episodes across 5 days, like in a sense they were doing with What If or something like that. Yeah. Even if it's just to give a small amount of
I know what you mean.
space.
I know what you mean. To give absolutely nothing, to put them all out in one day, to put it out like a way too long movie to watch. So nobody's going to sit down on a Wednesday and watch 5 hours of the show, but they may watch one episode a night for 5 nights.
But it comes and is forgotten really quickly. Yeah. And given that this is, this was the start of last year, like it's at this stage, given the amount of content, it's an age since it came out.
Yep. So I will honestly say, did we not do that last year? In my head, I'm like, wait, was that not 2023? No, it was 12 months ago. Yeah. But you're right. It feels an age ago. Yeah. And literally just so long ago.
Yeah. And also, again, because we covered it so quickly, again, we didn't do it over the course of 5 weeks. We did it over the course of a couple of weeks. So those go by much quicker. One of the more long lasting shows, or one of the longer running shows that we've covered on the podcast, is The Bad Batch, the Star Wars animated show that spun out of the Clone Wars, which was on its final season this year and had 15 episodes of the show. So it ran all the way from February through to May. So directly after Echo, we went straight into our coverage of The Bad Batch for the final season. Any thoughts about The Bad Batch, John?
I loved The Bad Batch. For me, I've absolutely adored pretty much all of the Star Wars animation. And this is just part of that sort of lovely kind of set of, 30-minute animations. They're just really, really well done. And I think for The Bad Batch, taking that concept from of Clone Force 99, from the Clone Wars, and spinning that out in a way which, to be honest, I never really anticipated that they would have 3 seasons. So to get, a third and final season, but it does feel like the coming to a close of a Dave Filoni dominated animation era. And that I'm a little bit sad for, to be honest. And for me, I really enjoyed The Bad Batch. I think having Tech go, and perish, I was convinced he was still going to come back. Really meaningful death, like with Kanan Jarrus in Rebels and his death. Really meaningful end to a character, which sometimes you just don't expect in animation. And certainly when you've gone through 7 seasons or whatever it was of Clone Wars, and you've got you do have Ahsoka, which you kind of were wondering how long she's going to go on for when that started off. So I just think there's a real it feels a bit end of an era, given he's kind of moving on to live action, even though he's got his executive producer fingerprints all over other Star Wars animation and being so creatively involved in Star Wars per se.
Yeah.
So, I thought this was really good. I mean, as I say, actually, the Kanan Jarrus, that's the only thing I wish had some kind of return here, given the first episode of season 1 where they encounter him. I would have loved to have had some kind of, meet up at some point between those characters, especially given I've kind of gotten a few Star Wars graphic novels of the Rebels and Kanan Jarrus' story, and actually, that opening episode of season 1 links in with the graphic novel story of Kanan Jarrus very well.
That was really good.
And that would have been kind of an interesting little nod to the Rebels in the Bad Batch. I think
that would have been nice. It would have been nice, but again, I suppose if you think about the arc after the Bad Batch, it goes into Rebels, and they do meet up with the characters from some of the characters from the Bad Batch. I did love the fact that, as always, when you get a final season, what I love about that is you do get a closing for the characters that are in there. So having a final episode that had a time jump in it and showed the characters who were still alive, what happened to them, I thought was great. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I'll quickly come in. I was late to the party on the animated side, as we kind of discussed a lot. I love, huge fan of Star Wars, less so of the animated, but did watch Clone Wars, only started Rebels, never fully finished it, got a lot of the cliff notes from YouTube. I loved this show by the end and was deeply involved in the characters. Yeah. And as John says, I am almost bemoaning and mourning a age now going into 2025 and beyond where we do not have a successor of any kind. So that's kind of more where I am. I love what we have, and it was great while we had it. Yeah. Now I'm very much like, oh no, now I'm feeling that mourning loss. So interesting to see what they will do. Maybe at Star Wars Celebrations, they may announce something else. Who knows? Yeah.
That's coming up in March in 25, isn't it?
Yeah,
in,
I think
in Japan,
so.
I think.
Tokyo.
So in Tokyo. So hopefully we'll see Jennifer Corbett there announcing the next season of the show. And maybe it'll take place around the same time as some of the other live action shows that are going out at the moment. They'll skip over the old trilogy and have a new animated series somewhere there, maybe.
Somewhere. So who knows? Be good to know. Good to see. But that does bring me to the next animated show that we covered. And that was Derek and I. And it was part 2 of a long-awaited end to a season for Invincible. Oh my god, very different style of animation, an adult version. I can wax lyrical about this show a lot, so I will ask Derek what your thoughts on this one, and then I'll come in just to close.
Absolutely. Invincible just goes from strength to strength every season. Our biggest show that we cover here is The Boys, on the podcast. And the other part of that podcast we cover is Invincible because they have a similar style. They're adult orientated, but from comic book sources. That's the way I always look at it. But Invincible itself gets more and more complicated. It gets more and more interesting each season for me. There's only been 8 episodes per season, but they did a really strange choice in 2023 into 24, where they put 4 episodes out in 23 and then put the second 4 episodes out in 2024, which came out in March of 24. So it was an interesting one where we had this kind of massive cliffhanger after 4 episodes, waited months to find out when the other 4 were coming back, and then it came back for 1 more month. So what I find really funny about it is all the advertising for season 3, which comes out in 2025. All the advertising for season 3 is, look, we heard you. We're not going to make the same mistake again. All the episodes are coming out in a row, 1 a week. Don't worry about it. We will be there. We're putting out season 3. So I thought that was really fun. But what a great story. It's a really interesting concept of an invincible superhero, a truly invincible superhero who finds out that his dad is an implant on Earth, looking to conquer it effectively. So that's a really cool idea. I love it. So I can't wait to see season 3. How about yourself, Chris? What do you think of the second season?
Second season for me, locked down. I've read the comics back to front. I think I'm on 3rd run now. And they definitely took liberties on the animated show. Yeah. But for the right reasons and the right way. And all I can say is I'm I'm more now excited, having read these, knowing where a lot of it goes. I'm more now excited about each upcoming season because it is that. Oh, what changes will you make? Okay, like what? How will you adapt this for a different audience and a different screen and a different view? I think so far every single one of them. I sound like I actually adore these two, but Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, the two of them have each time adapted it so correctly. Yeah, from a production perspective, and even they were both in the writings that were so interesting to see what they do and continue to do with this.
Absolutely. They've got a bit of a golden touch over at AMC, don't they? They've got Preacher as well. Before that was their big live action show as well. So yeah, looking forward to more Invincible this year as well. Then myself and John, I know Chris, you had to step back a little bit this year with your young baby. I had to step back from the podcast a bit. So myself and John did a fair few podcasts back together ourselves. One of our big celebrations for the year this year, and we'll talk about the show itself later on. But one of the big celebrations is 10 years of podcasting together from myself and John, which started back in 2014. So doing a lot of podcasts this year was really interesting. You know, back then we only did one show in an entire year, but those shows were 22 episodes long. So
exactly.
A little bit different. But we started out early on in the year with probably our biggest show of the year, and has definitely stood the test of longevity with these shows. It's come to award season. The Golden Globes just happened, and it's one of the most awarded shows of the year, coming out with 3 of the major Golden Globes. That's Shogun, the 10-episode series that was on Disney Plus over here on Hulu. So what's your memory of Shogun, John?
Just beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful. Just proper class.
Yeah.
Piece of TV.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you know, we proclaimed that there was only going to be one season because it was covering the book, and lo and behold, it's had the success, and we're going to get a season 2, and it's possibly a season 3.
Yeah.
So I will be absolutely looking forward to getting back into the world of Shogun.
I'm so
really intrigued to see what they're doing for season 2, because there are, like, James Clavell's novel has connected kind of, but it's like in different time periods.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, are they going to do that? Because I mean, I've not really heard too much. I'm hoping not.
But when we say different time periods, it's not like a 5-year time jump. It's 100-year
No, that's what I mean.
Jumps.
Yeah, it's massive.
You know, so it's not a direct follow-up to
I think
to
one of the
Shogun,
last ones is in kind of like 1940s or 1960s Hong Kong. So like, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to go there. I really hope they stay in that era because it's fascinating. It's so beautifully conceived. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a season 2 and 3 of Shogun, and I would recommend to any of our listeners, like, for something different. You know, we tend to cover DC, Marvel, and, you know,
comic book inspired.
But I mean also then Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. So it's big properties, you know, generally. It's just something different. You know,
it was groundbreaking. It was absolutely wonderful. We know Hiroyuki Sanada, who was the lead actor in the show, is coming back as producer for the next 2 seasons. He was a lead producer on the first season, expected to star in the next 2 seasons, which means they would, I presume, take place very quickly after the end of Shogun. But the last scene in the Shogun TV show is pretty much the last scene in the Shogun book. So I don't know what they're going to do.
I know,
but it'll be really interesting. And again, congratulations to Hiroyuki Sanada, who won the Best Actor award at the Golden Globes, Anna Sawai, who won the Best Supporting Actress, and Tadanobu Osana, of course, who won the Best Supporting Actor for his wonderful performance as Ashiga, one of the best characters on TV this year. You just didn't know whether you should be behind him or whether you should want him to be dead, but a great character on TV. So definitely go watch that one.
Yeah, definitely. And not on to another one of the shows that we covered. Again, in the world of Neil Gaiman, which was Dead Boy Detectives.
Yeah. Netflix's Sandman universe. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I was going to say Sandbox for some.
The Sandbox of Neil Gaiman, maybe. Yeah.
Which was actually, you know, it was really kind of, it was light.
Yeah.
But it just was great. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of easily digestible, but nonetheless, it had heart and soul, and I liked the stories that came. Like, I hadn't ever sort of gotten into there were the comic books, even though it was just one comic set from the Sandman.
There's one story in the Sandman,
which was then spun out by other authors.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed Dead Boy Detectives. Again, sadly, it's not getting renewed.
It has been cancelled, yeah, unfortunately.
It has been cancelled.
I think, we mentioned about Echo being 5 episodes, and, again, that ties into the universe of Marvel, so you kind of go, okay, well, at least, they'll use the character again sometime in the future, but this is the big problem with Netflix, where they dump a show over the course of a day, like they did with Dead Boy Detectives. It does have its fan base, and there are some very loyal fans out there who absolutely love Dead Boy Detectives. We definitely enjoyed watching the show, but it being dumped in one day has meant that it didn't have the long legs that a show is allowed to get. It got cancelled. A couple of months afterwards, they said it will not be returning. All the actors have been released from their contracts. So the chances of us seeing them or those characters anytime in the future seems really unlikely. But then again, I'm the one that said it's a 100 million % no chance of a sequel to Shogun, and they've got 2 more seasons. So, who am I to talk? Netflix have cancelled it, though. But you never know. We might see them back in an episode of The Sandman next season when it comes out, or something else in the future.
It might. And I mean, it's interesting. It seems as well with Netflix doing sort of NFL. They're obviously doing WWE. They've got so many shows that have been produced and done by other companies or broadcasters. They're doing a lot of reality TV. So I just feel that the Netflix model is once again sort of changing and turning. And so, the fact that they may just reduce down some of that original content, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, but it does make me laugh that they've made this decision to move into sport content, which comes out once a week. People tune in to watch WWE once a week, and that's the revelation that they've had. Oh my God, if we put something on once a week that people are interested in, they'll tune in to watch it, and they'll maintain the subscription. Why didn't you do that with all your fecking TV shows over the course of the last 8 years? People would have paid their subscription and tuned in every week.
And for example, something like the Premiership or NFL,
absolutely,
the season lasts a good number of months.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, hopefully they'll learn the lesson and they'll stop cancelling great genre shows. But I do get the feeling they're more likely to go towards more sports content and reality TV content instead, unfortunately, because they're cheaper to produce. So that's just the financial side of things. But we did have another quick podcast together, John. We talked about Star Wars Tales of the Empire. This was the 6-episode two-hander with Morgan Elsbeth, who we'd seen in live action in Star Wars Ahsoka, kind of her rise on one side, and then the turning of a Jedi in Barasafi, turning towards the dark side in the other half of it, because this time it was more the dark side of the tales of the Empire, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, in and of itself, a two-parter in terms of the other side of the coin from the Tales of the Jedi. From
which was the previous year. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was good to do. I actually really enjoyed the Morgan Elsbeth one. I think with Offie, that was a little more obscure for me, but
Barasafi,
kind of, and I guess kind of going to the dark side and then realizing her Jedi training again. So there was a bit of a redemption arc within that 3 episodes. And the Morgan Elsbeth, I thought it was really, I enjoyed it because you kind of knew her fate from the first season of the live action of Ahsoka.
Yeah, it was quite cool.
Despite her absolute unswerving devotion to the Empire because of what it promised her, it ended up with her being left in another galaxy, basically. Well, exactly. and effectively being killed.
Yeah.
So, spoilers, apologies. I thought it was a real nice sort of add-on for Ahsoka as well.
Yes, exactly.
Amongst other things.
It's really good, really good. And then kind of our big one, as it always is. Chris returned, and all three of us were back for our biggest show, The Boys. Yeah. Season 4 came out this year. And they announced that season 5 is going to be the last season of The Boys' main show. This is the penultimate season, effectively. Look, guys, I know, again, I think we talk about this only on our annual recap, but that I don't give you the numbers for our podcast, but you know, this is our biggest show every single year. I'm talking 5 times the number that any of the other podcasts do. Huge amount of listenership out there still for our podcast on The Boys.
It's because we're so good at double entendres.
It is. I think it is at this stage.
Triple entendres.
So it's not even double or triple. We have passed the 8th entendre of entendres.
Yeah, exactly. Our lightsaber would be such a deep red because we could corrupt it so much.
I'm just more going like we're going square root and fractal levels of entendres. We're circling back on ourselves into infinite entendres.
I must say, I never thought it would be so much fun to discuss basically a 18 rated or adult rated TV show with the amount of stuff that they do in a PG way.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's an interesting predicament, and
it is, isn't it?
Imposed by ourselves. In fairness, we have a boys podcast where we could just put out the boys podcast, but I kind of like having it all on the same feed.
I agree. I think it's still fun
for myself. But I also will say, you know what? I'd love if any of our listeners want to tell us the real reason. But I would also say it's because we come at the show from a positive mindset. We come at it from the same perspective as the writers and directors come at it. We are the people that understand that they are that they are throwing a critical eye at what's going on, specifically in the US at the moment. So we can avoid all of that commentary that comes out from the people that are suddenly realizing 4 seasons in that Homelander's a criticism of them, and then saying, oh my God, The Boys has gone woke or something like that, which seemed to be the pervading promoted content that was going out anyway during The Boys season 4 as it was being released. It just made me laugh every week when a new episode came out and there was these articles going, oh, have they gone too far with their commentary? And it's like, well, no, clearly they haven't, because you're still not getting the bloody message, are you? It's hilarious.
They will when he runs for president in 2025.
He will when he attacks Panama for the canal.
Well, exactly, and then makes Canada the 51st state. I guess is going to be
Homelander's
mission.
Here.
Yeah, we're talking about Homelander.
Yes.
Exactly.
But another strong.
It's a real sort of shrewd one, is that Homelander.
He is. But another very strong season, and the continuation now is we have Gen V season 2 hopefully coming out this year, and then the 5th season comes out in 2026, which will close out the central boy story. But there are loads of other spin-offs planned to the show. I don't think The Boys is going away anytime soon. It's still a massive show for Prime Video, so it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what those spin-offs are. Gen V and Boys South America are the only two that we are officially confirmed.
Yes.
There have been rumors of the teen one, which was similar to Gen V, but it is more focused on the kick. Their version of like the Teen Titans and Teen Avengers and stuff. I can't remember what it was a.
See, I thought that was eventually rolled into Gen V season 2. When it got confirmed for second season. Yeah.
But the latest rumors is no, it's still its own thing.
Right.
Until I see a confirmation coming from Prime Video and Amazon going, hey, welcome to the world of The Boys and X. Because remember, these are the guys that gave us Diabolical.
Yeah.
Anything is possible with this franchise, so I'm very interested to see.
I'm interested in Boys South America. That sounds like something very different.
It sounds like something right in your wheelhouse, John.
It's Narcos. It's basically going to be Narcos with superheroes.
That's not what I'm thinking.
No, that's not what I was thinking. But anyway,
I'm just wondering if the news stories continue about the connection between Bezos and the real life Homelander. Let's say, I wonder whether The Boys will survive for the next couple of years. You know,
well, Facebook didn't. So anyway.
Exactly. But our biggest show, we talked about a heck of a lot over the last 4 seasons, and we're really looking forward to more of The Boys as it continues. We did do one podcast on a live action Star Wars show this year. We covered The Acolyte, which was coming out weekly, and we covered it in one podcast in July. I actually have this down in kind of my regrets of things that I wish we'd done in 2024. I wish we'd done The Acolyte weekly. It just came out at a time when we were doing lots of other stuff, and we saw the first 3 episodes and kind of thought, it doesn't seem to be really within our wheelhouse. But by the end of the series, I was totally turned on to The Acolyte, and I feel like if we had covered it weekly, we might have gotten a bit more out of it than we did when we just kind of binged the whole thing.
I would agree with that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we just got caught with a lot of different things coming up because it was in July. And
we got married in August, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, we were doing The Boys, which ran into July as well. I think at the start of the year, we had suddenly, with The Bad Batch, Shogun, and Invincible, suddenly, again, it was 3 lots of spinning plates, and we just couldn't afford to do that close to August, I guess, when we got married. So, but yeah, no, I kind of wish we had done this weekly, because, I mean, I think ultimately with the podcast, if you split it up into 8, I think it just that we get more positive. I think it was, a little bit of a strange one to begin with. Like, where's this going? But actually, again, when you realize there's this whole part of the Star Wars galaxy that really we don't have we have no movies or TV. There's, a lot of it in video games in terms of the Old Republic and so on, but nothing really, within the lore from the movies and TV. This is a real unique thing that's come out from Star Wars.
It was, yeah.
I guess it's had its reboot, and in a sense, again, I think it just got a bit of short shrift, really, because certainly with having Darth Plagueis, just given. Yeah. No, I thought that was really interesting. I really
but it's 30 seconds on screen.
It was 30 seconds, but I mean, just the potential of that you can go down. And again, I guess it's one of the things I've said a few times. It can be a criticism that it's like TV is now. Its first season is about setting up for a second, and it never gets a second.
Yeah.
Because there's so much content, and it's like, just deliver a story that you want to tell. It's like, why are you keeping this secret? I would have loved that Darth Plagueis was the upfront. It's that connection to at least the prequels and the Emperor, and having that relationship with potentially with him and the Stranger or Khmer, or Sexy Sith, or what was the other? What was the other one?
Smilo Ren.
That's it, Smilo Ren. So, all that would have been really good, as well as the other parts of the story. But I mean, it just seemed like it meandered a little to get to being good. And then it was kind of over. And they had this lovely little appetite whetting sort of nasty Darth Plagueis coming, looking out from the cave. And then it's not getting carried forward.
And Master Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just it was really, because I actually really liked how it just delved into the Sith. I think it makes an awful lot of sense to explore that side of it. Because, I mean, you do realize the Jedi Order is a little bit weird.
Well, there was the fall of the Jedi Order around that time as well, and that was part of the thing that could have been explored within this tale. It was frustrating at the time that this is the only story now going to be told in that era.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of comic books that have taken the lead off of some of the characters in there that were obviously in production when the cancellation came through for the Acolyte. But it feels like, because and not to repeat myself from that podcast, but in case you didn't hear it, it feels like the decision that they made to make a mystery tale set in this era as the first the first show kicking off the new era was a bad choice. It's not a bad show, certainly well worth a watch. But I wish they had done something else to establish the era first, so we could have seen more shows spin off.
Definitely. And we always talked about the Marvel 6-pack, and here we got the start of the Sith pack.
Yes, we did.
And like, we're never going to get the Sith pack back again.
I know.
I can't argue much more. Like, I can't even comment much more outside of what you guys have said. For me, it's the shame of the kind of, it's another show that will not get more than what we have. And there's definitely things they did wrong, and we discussed those things, but there's definitely, for me, I think, enough done right.
Absolutely.
And I think also the other thing I will say is, yes, the detriment of we watched them pretty quickly and then got them to podcast. I think when we and our listeners podcast weekly and listen weekly and discuss and kind of have our chats, we find more about the positives of it. And it definitely, you can see where they're going through. Like, there's another show that's happening right now, Skeleton Crew. Which we'll talk more about later. But again, if we had done that weekly, I think I would have found a lot more, because I find it getting better and better and better.
I have it written further down in the doc. That's the other regret from 2024 that we didn't do that weekly. We will be podcasting about it. Hopefully next week, we'll as the final episode comes out next week, we will be doing our one podcast episode for the season of the show, because it has been a lot of fun. Actually, really enjoyed the Skeleton Crew as it went on. But
I mean,
there's just no way we could have podcasted about it over Christmas.
The first episode, I was just like, I just don't know really what to make of this. And as it's gone through, I've just really, really enjoyed it.
But they punctured the mystery very quickly in Skeleton Crew. That's the big difference, I think, from Acolyte. Acolyte was holding it back with the unreliable narrator for 5 or 6 episodes. And then it was like, oh, actually, if you watch right through to the end and then watch back to the start again, then it all makes sense. It was just too much to put on the wider audience. I just hate the narrative that's out there is that the Acolyte was a bad show. It wasn't a bad show. No. It was well worth watching.
Exactly.
Agreed. Another show that finished this year, and Chris, this is one of your big ones, was Umbrella Academy, the final season after a massive gap over the course of 2-3 years, I think, between season 3. It came back with 6 episodes for its final season, and with a statement from Steve Blackman, the showrunner, that he was offered an 8-episode final season and told him that he didn't need it. He only wanted 6 episodes, which is really interesting. When you're thinking back on the Umbrella Academy, how do you think it landed in the end for the final season?
I think it was positive. Looking back on it, I fondly remember the ending. I fondly remember that season. There was definitely bits where I think we all went, what? Okay, interesting choice. And again, those comments from Steve about he only needed 6, not 8. There was definitely pieces where we all said, that could have used an extra 5 minutes to breathe. Interesting. And if you add up, okay, he could have just gone, hey, give me 7 and we're good. Like, it just do something weird. It did suffer, unfortunately, as well from the standard Netflix issue. Dumped in a day, forgotten in 2 weeks.
It's brutal.
The build up marketing wise, fantastic. And as we discussed it and we chatted more and we looked at it, and it definitely lived on. And every now and again, I go back to different like scenes from throughout the seasons and just have fondly remember them. But overall, it's kind of those, it's fondly remembering a loved one that has passed, if that's probably the best way of putting it.
I think so. I mean, for me, this was my favorite cast of characters. I loved podcasting about the cast. Like, Diego for me was just, is a hero. I really, really enjoy the character of Diego. I thought it portrayed so well. But all of them are just really, really good.
But what about 5? He was amazing too. Agreed. Completely.
Yeah. I just loved this set of characters.
Absolutely.
I thought they worked so well. I thought they were cast so well. I know you can say that about a lot of these, but for me, there was something really special about the chemistry here because I think there was such a comedic side of it, and I think that's really difficult to pull off. And whatever about just straight-laced drama or whatever, I think having those elements plus the comedic side, and I just thought it was so well done. And in some respects, despite maybe some of the shortcomings of this final season of Umbrella Academy for me, it doesn't matter because the cast was still on point, and to me, that was part of the charm and the power of the Umbrella Academy, were this group of characters working their way through this crazy, messy world.
Yep. Absolutely. It's funny, isn't it? I think one of the comments we made most often, thinking back of all the podcasts over the 4 seasons, one of the comments we made most often was, put these characters in a room, just let them talk to each other, and we'll be happy watching it. I think they did test that in the last, in season 3 and season 4. Will you watch it if we literally just put them in a room and allow them to just throw out dialogue to each other? Yes, we will, and we're happy to have it. So, we were delighted to get 6 more episodes of this cast. But as I said, it did feel a little bit like, the showrunner was just ready to move on to his next project, whatever that's going to be, and shut it down there and then. I'm sure it was massively difficult to get all this cast back together for that 4th season as well. So happy to have had it, even though it may not have been the best of the 4 seasons.
But that did bring to another show then where I stepped away into the darkness, much like Frodo putting on the ring of invisibility and slipping into invisibility. And I don't know. You guys do all the Ring of Power or Lord of the Rings stuff, but you guys covered Lord of the Rings, Ring of Power season 2.
We certainly did. And as you can probably tell from Chris's description of Lord of the Rings there's a reason why Chris doesn't cover it with us. He doesn't remember much of it. But Rings of Power season 2 was one of the best shows this year, and talk about a jump in a show from season 1 to season 2. Wow. Like, I think everybody could just jump into the second season and start there, get your recap at the beginning of the episode and jump into the second season. Some of the performances in there, the writing, it was excellent, this season. I think it was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. And not that I didn't enjoy the first season, but it was just a huge, change, a huge difference. It was in production way before it had been, the first season had seen the light of day as well. So it's not like they retooled it for the audience. It was already their plan, and hopefully the plan for the 5 seasons that they have in Prime Video will come to fruition.
Yeah, but I mean, as well, I think with this season, absolutely anchored with the relationship between Celebrimbor and Sauron, effectively.
Yes, it's fantastic.
And the corruption of Celebrimbor, his realization of it. I mean, so sort of juicily Palpatine-esque, I think. Like, really, really good. And I mean, again, I think this season 2, it was a case of, double acts of characterization through this world, and it really, really worked. I think the only kind of, sort of negative point I had was just more sort of the coverage of Isildur. There was a lot less this time.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I see why, but it would have been nice just to have had a bit more coverage of Isildur's journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing as well was, like, I loved the coverage of Numenor, the Queen, Isildur's father, the Queen's cousin, and his kind of takeover of power.
Absolutely.
Again,
I could totally see a whole series set in Numenor.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. I love that.
And I think just because they went a bit more to Numenor this season, I would have liked to have seen more, because it really popped for me.
Yeah.
I think some of the visuals across this show are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Really memorable, really classy. And I would have just liked some more of Isildur, given how important he is. But equally, potentially, there's 5 seasons.
Yeah, 3 more seasons to go. Yeah. So he could be a central character next season. It's great to see the dwarves, though, this season. I think they had a really good central role. And wasn't it awesome that we got a character named, got Gandalf finally named in the show, and unfortunately, another character introduced with no name.
Yeah. But we got the Balrog as well, which was
awesome too.
Superlicious.
Very cool. Our last 3 shows of the year we did cover very recently. We only finished covering them in December, so we'll go quickly through them. But our next Marvel show, Agatha All Along, what a big surprise that was. It was
absolutely.
Really good fun. A great show. And I think, I feel like behind the scenes over at Marvel, they're going, wow, that was a really big success. We need to kind of retool stuff and put out stuff for this audience now. There's been some discussion with one of the producers of Marvel Television over the last couple of weeks who's been saying, we found an audience now. We really need to serve that audience because they're an audience that we haven't been able to get with most of the other shows that they've done in the past. So, hey, more stuff for us. That's what we like to hear, huh?
Very much.
Absolutely.
This was I want to say an unknown gem, but it was coming into this. I was trepidatious, kind of like having loved Catherine Hahn in WandaVision and loving that character. We had no idea where this was going to go. Again, it was that kind of like, this, are you cashing in on this just because she was popular and Agatha All Along was a good song?
Agreed.
And they were. It turned out.
And they were.
They just did a great job of writing it.
Well, that's it. They were. But I also think having Jack Schaefer, like you saw the parallels with WandaVision. The reason why WandaVision was also great, fondly remembered, and I loved the echoes of WandaVision coming through in that first episode, or first 2 episodes, and then having it going through again with the different houses along the Witch's Road, and it all being centered around this song, The Witch's Road. So absolutely enjoyed that. And I loved the 3 witches that came along with Agatha and the teenager on The Witch's Road. You've got Jennifer Cale there, you have Alice Wu Gulliver, but also then you have Lilia Calderon. And I thought the Patti LuPone episodes were just absolutely stand out.
That episode was one of the best episodes of TV this year. Yeah. Without a doubt. It was absolutely
so good.
Loved the storytelling. And again, we mentioned it on our coverage as well at the time that for Marvel, this was all the way it was produced, with it all being pretty much filmed on a set rather than out in public, and they were able to keep the costs down considerably, and it had a very large viewership and went over the course of 6 weeks because it was released 2 episodes first week, then 4 episodes, and then 2 episodes to come out in time for Halloween. So that ended off being a really good package for them. It ended off being something that makes the right money. So while we talked about the bad side of financial decisions determining whether a show goes ahead or not, because they throw money at it and dump it all in 1 week, here's a great financial decision that they made.
Absolutely.
Make it in a style that means you don't have to spend a hell of a lot of money on it. You spend that money on the writing, you spend that money on the actors. They all do a great job putting it together, and then you spread it out over 2 months, and you get the subscribers for it for a couple of months. Yeah, that's great.
And we did, we did kind of theorize as well that given Joe Locke as the teen and it coming also on the coattails of the latest season of Heartstopper as well, so there's a move from that group of fans as well.
Absolutely.
Like, a lot of fans involved here around, you think of Patti LuPone has got her fan base, so has Catherine Hahn, so has Joe Locke. So,
and Aubrey Plaza.
And Aubrey Plaza, exactly.
I have to say, though, I can't remember whether we talked about it at the time. I remember seeing Joe Locke do interviews towards the end of the season of Agatha coming out, and he had come back off the back of 2 months straight of promoting Heartstopper and this show Heartstopper again on Netflix, all came out in one day. So he did a huge amount of promotion for that, then went straight into Agatha All Along, travelled all around the world. He looked absolutely knackered. For a 23-year-old, he looked like he couldn't keep his eyes open, and most of the rest of the cast were kind of fielding the questions. That at the start of the tour, he was the one that was really happy chatting all about everything. By the end of the tour, it was like, can you just please take this question for me? The poor kid. But that's what happens sometimes when they decide to release shows in that way, and I'm sure he's delighted with the success that both shows have had. But it was a long promotional tour for them, talking about things that they couldn't spoil as well. That must be so frustrating.
Absolutely.
I'd say the ones that at least he could talk about things that happened on the show, like the name of his character, at the least that must have been enjoyable for him, towards the end of the show. So
towards the end.
But one of the rumors coming up, we've mentioned again on that coverage that the next show out of that WandaVision stable coming up is the Vision Quest, whatever that's going to be called. And one of the rumors is that that's being retooled to include Agatha Harkness and Billy on their own quest in that series, whatever that may be. That's still being written at the moment. So
very
that's
cool.
one of the rumors.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. Another one we've just finished off is The Penguin, the 8 episodes of season 1. Yes. Given it has gotten a season 2, it's not a limited event, a limited series event.
Shocked by this.
So
shocked by it, not for the quality. The quality of the show was absolutely brilliant, but it felt like everybody put so much into it, thinking this was an event show, like the first season of Shogun, which is now going to be a 3-season show. And Colin Farrell saying, "I will never be in that fat suit again. Yes, you might see me for a couple of minutes in Batman 2 whenever that comes out, but I will never be doing a TV show with me wearing that suit again." And now they're saying he will absolutely be doing it for season 2 of the show. This is all coming out, like we were talking about it just before we sat down. Matt Reeves was at the Golden Globes, and I think everybody asked him about it because he was there for the Penguin. Every person asked him about what's happening in the Batman universe in DC, what's happening with the movies, what's happening with the Penguin, and he just gave brand new answers that he'd never given before in anything else. He seems like they are on the path to writing the second season. They're working it all out right now with the showrunner for the Penguin. It is happening. Previously, it had always been, they want to have another TV show in the universe, but probably focused on another villain. He's saying now, Colin Farrell's definitely coming back now for the second season. They're putting it all together at the moment, and that the Batman 2 has been pushed out to 2027, likely to accommodate the second season of whatever the Penguin 2 will look like. So that's massive.
So, we all know exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. Marvel and DC have once again mirrored each other and just got the proverbial dump truck of money.
Yep.
And just reverse it into Carl Fallon's lap and just goes, "Right, lads, just keep, Colin, tell us when."
Yeah.
When? No, okay, keep going. And they just showered him. Same thing they did to Robert Downey Jr. They just went, "What would it take to bring you back into this universe?" Yeah. Because I wasn't on the podcast with you, gents. I will literally say this was, and still probably is, within my top 3 content for the year. This show was just amazing. It was
brilliant.
It was super.
So well built, put together, so interesting. It wasn't a comic book show. They basically, yes, it's in the Matt Reeves universe, and again, I honestly thought this was also going to be terrible because again it was retooled. It was the Arkham show? Was it a version of no it was something else? It was about all the rogues. No it was
it was originally supposed to be the Arkham Asylum TV show, and then supposed to be the GCPD TV show, the Gotham show, and then they decided to throw all those out and turn it into the Penguin show and focus it as a crime drama set in the world of Penguin, where you'd never see the Batman in the show, which was a cool idea, something that we hadn't seen before from in the Batman universe. And one of the other things that Matt Reeves confirmed on the red carpet last night, or the other night at the Golden Globes, is that he's effectively now in charge of the Batman corner of the universe. He's going to be in charge of the dynamic duo, the upcoming Batman movie. He's going to be in charge of the Clayface movie, which is set in Gotham as well.
Brave and bold.
I was really surprised about that because, the whole talk for the last couple of years has been James Gunn and his partner are going to be in charge of the DC universe. It seems like with the success of Batman and now the success of the Penguin, they're going, well, you know what, Matt Reeves, while you will have the Elseworlds story of Batman, we also want you in charge of the in-universe Batman stuff as well, which is so interesting.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me.
Absolutely. They're successful. Why throw it out?
But I'm like Chris, for me, The Penguin is one of my top shows.
Mm-hmm.
I think what was quite nice about it was as well, came in our 10th year after doing our first recording of Gotham TV podcast, and so that was really nice. But I loved again just the central characters here, and it'll be interesting with a second season because I thought the thing that was really good about this was Victor, as a really unusual kind of motif for bringing you through. Actually, quite a recognizable Penguin story, or Gotham story, you know, crime families and so on, actually.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that element of Victor was the unique aspect here.
Yep.
Of almost the Penguin being a mentor to this kid. And then, you know, what happens.
Yep.
Getting that close to the Penguin in that sense, but all equally just, you know, Christine Milioti, superb here.
Absolutely.
As, the Falcone, daughter.
Yeah. And this is such a pity that it's only just been confirmed for a season 2 and season 3, because Kristen Milioti lost out on the best female performance at the Golden Globes because they put her into the category of miniseries. Because before the Golden Globes, or at least when they were originally announced, it was a miniseries. But if it had been in the series, she would have been up. Well, actually, she would have been up against Anna Sawai in Shogun. She definitely wouldn't have beaten Anna Sawai in Shogun. While she was fantastic, they are the two best female performances of the year, Anna Sawai and Kristen Milioti. They're both fantastic, but I think she may have just lost out to Anna Sawai, not to Baby Reindeer. That's all.
I am interested to see where they go with season 2. Yeah. They have talked about it was going to be another character. I think they'll just make it the Penguin, and they'll introduce another rogue in season 2. The Mike Flanagan Clayface film is going to be spectacular. That is one I have all of his, including Dr. Sleep, where some people do not like it for whatever strange reason.
Don't know why.
That's fine. But every single one of his shows on Netflix have been amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge twists, changes, every aspect of them. So I am so eager to see what he does in that universe.
I really hope he doesn't do a Fantastic Four stick body horror.
No,
it'll definitely be body horror.
I know it will.
Body horror.
It'll be good body horror.
Yes,
that's the plan. That's the plan. But of course, we should say huge congratulations to Colin Farrell on his Golden Globe win, a wonderful Irish winner. He was up against another Irish actor, Andrew Scott, for Best Actor in that role. Either of them could have won that, and we would have been happy as wonderful Irish podcasters. So always happy to see the Irish up there up front. But I absolutely loved his speech that he gave, where he said this was just a small performance, me stripped back to nothing, standing in front of a camera, nobody else involved. And then of course said it actually was him taking the makeup team's work and giving it a platform. So it's probably his biggest role. I would say this will be the one that will go down in history for Colin Farrell. While he's been in lots and lots of movies. Wow, think about all the movies he's been back to, like Minority Report, you know, all the way
Total Recall.
Total Recall, yeah. I went for Minority Report. People will remember that he was in that. They'll think of Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, but like he's been in the Badges of Sheeran, you know, he's been up for Oscars. He's been up for many, many awards. I think that now this is one of those definitive performances that he's done, and we'll see him in the future. And once again, unlike with the other shows, the only reason I was saying we wouldn't get another season of The Penguin was because of his resistance to doing it. But there's 60 years of stories and 60 years of tales of this character to be able to tell any story they want to in the Gotham universe. And I'm excited for it. Very cool. Speaking of universes and stories spinning out all over the place, what if season 3, the final season of another show, our final Marvel show and our final show for the year? It was a really interesting experiment in What If overall, wasn't it? It was.
It was fun. It had its ups, it had its downs, it had its The narrative thread that they did end up weaving was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't given my thoughts on the ending yet, so I'm going to spend 30 seconds going. I'm now a few days out, and I'm very happy it exists. I'm very happy at what they did and what they potentially set up in some aspects. What if at all it is connected? Because that's a deeper question I still have now, because there's definitely some aspects where I'm like, wait, what? Did you do what I think you did? I don't know. Question mark about Kang and everything in that now. But it suffered, I think that final episode suffered from, we would call it sometimes the Marvel trope, where you power two similarly individuals with similar power sets against each other, and you just smash them together like action figures.
Yeah.
That was my problem with just the overall ending, because you had the potential with some characters doing some very interesting things. My God, Storm is in it. The first ex-person in the universe. I guess she's a kind of a version of Thor, but
she's the goddess of thunder in this universe. Yep.
But I think they just suffered. They shouldn't have ended it that way, in my view. It's similar to Secret Invasion.
Ooh,
it was a perfect Nick Fury, brilliant, like, kind of spy piece, and they ended it with just 2 action figures smashing together. And we kind of we were like, oh, these were great. This sets up whole things, but you've just done a bit of a CGI overload. Here it was just animation overload. That's my view. I'm hoping that they potentially spin some versions out because they talked about some really cool things at the end. Spider-Man with 6 arms, Ghost Rider on a samurai. I'm like, yes, show me those. Don't even need to connect them. Every now and again, throw me 2 what if animated 20-minuters, just being a what if. Like, that's what I loved about the comics and what I loved sometimes about this show, which is the strange just what ifs there. Yeah. So overall, happy with where it ended. Just kind of like shame it just ended the way it did.
I am glad this season that they were able to do a couple of standalone actual what if episodes that didn't connect into the overall narrative. That was my complaint about the previous 2 seasons, that every single thing tied into the final big battle at the end. And I'm also glad that this show did have a what if ending. It ended the series with the major characters that you were aware of and the major characters that were together, like Captain Carter, who we'd seen right back to the first episode, her being central to the final episode. So it feels like the what if show ended. It doesn't feel like they were just trying to answer a question from somewhere else in the Marvel universe. I think that was the right choice to make for the final season.
Yeah, I think so as well. As I say, I think a lot of good episodes in the 3 seasons of What If. And then ultimately with movies, there was just the one here.
Isn't that mad? We only went to the cinema once this year. I think the previous wrap up that we did, we had 4 or 5 movies in a year, but we only went to the cinema once to see one movie and podcast out one movie, which was Deadpool and Wolverine this year, which we podcasted about just before our wedding in August.
Yeah. And it was one of the best films of the year.
It was good.
it was good. It was just a really good, fun Deadpool film.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot, to be honest. It's not my favorite of the Deadpool series, but I do like the sensibility of it a lot. It's good fun.
Yeah. It's weird though, isn't it? It's been on Disney Plus for the last couple of months now, available to watch at any time because I have a Disney Plus account, and I literally haven't gotten through the first more than 10 minutes of it. Every time I try to turn it on, I go, yeah, I remember how this goes. And then turn it off. And I'm sure I'll come back to it at some point in the future. I'm sure I'll laugh away at it like I did last time. But when I saw it in the cinema, and I did really enjoy it when I saw it in the cinema, but it just hasn't taken me. The mood hasn't taken me to watch it a second time or a third time. I think I have watched it twice.
That's allowed as well.
It is.
I think it's still too fresh. It still is very fresh.
That's true, actually.
Because they did extend the marketing for a long time after.
Yeah,
there's been behind the scenes discussions, vignettes, feature, like it just went on. I did
watch the behind the scenes documentary. Actually, I watched that start to finish, which was just a little bit. Yay, great! We were able to act with each other. We always wanted to act with each other, and that was kind of all of the making of.
Sycophantic.
Yes, absolutely. I kind of wanted to see a bit more, but anyway, that's everything that we covered into 2024.
But there was things we didn't cover.
What did we not cover? A couple of things that we definitely would love to have covered. We'll say it again. A couple of these we talked about the last time. We're never going to be able to cover them with podcast because they always come out at times when we are covering other things. But Reacher Season 2 came out last year. We were all big fans of Reacher.
So good.
Season 2 was great fun. And Season 3, again, is coming out in February of this year, just before our next big, huge raft of shows. So we're not going to be able to cover Reacher.
We had done Reacher, and I'm surprised we didn't, given you're such a massive fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I've read all the books
it's your fault.
many times, and I really would love to cover it, but I do make the decision that it all comes out today, and we've got loads of other shows to cover.
That's
unfortunately. But just be known that we do love it. All three of us have really enjoyed it. So if you haven't seen it, it's a good use of your Prime Video subscription.
Definitely. I think another one for me was, I was kind of swept up with this really, and I didn't think I would be, was Dune Prophecy. Again, it was a real classy TV show. I loved how it just felt consistent with the movies, which I really, really enjoyed. It felt as epic on that scale.
Except hundreds of years before.
But just focusing on hundreds of years before the kind of the sisterhood and how that sort of cult its origins in a sense, its mythology, and also just the start of this world that it is effectively an alternative future for humanity, with, you know, the war against intelligent machines, on the victory of that by humans effectively paring back. I mean, it felt very Wheel of Time, actually, when you said that, you know, when you see Wheel of Time and you see that it's, maybe there was a more futuristic society there beforehand, and you really got that sense from Dune Prophecy.
It's something that I never got in the movies, that the world of Dune takes place thousands of years after the fall of our Earth. That they did have technology, and that's why their technology is quite advanced in some places and not advanced at all in other places. But it's writ large in this show.
Yeah, or the technology looks organic. It's almost a bit like the sort of prequel Alien stuff with Prometheus, a bit, you know, or even like Man of Steel and that kind of technology. You know. It's kind of whatever, bubbles or sort of like nanoparticles, but it looks organic. You know, it's kind of it's more of an organic technology.
I know since the show only finished about 2 weeks ago, you're struggling trying not to spoil anything, but I will say, everybody claims that their new show is the new Game of Thrones when it comes out, and by the end of this first season of Dune Prophecy, I realized that only HBO can do the new Game of Thrones. Whatever they choose is going to be their new Game of Thrones. It's what they choose. Of course, Dune Prophecy being a Game of Thrones like show, and House of the Dragon, which is another show we'd love to have covered. House of the Dragon season 2 came out this year as well in 2024. It was an excellent show.
Yeah. I think the other one for me, actually, from an animation point of view, was Arcane. So I not seen season 2, but heard about it and so on. And
thanks to Coffee and Vodka, who was at me to watch it. He was telling me how great it was. He told me we'd absolutely love it. We eventually sat down and watched the first season over our break, and it was fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, really, really good. I don't know. Just something about it. It's a bit like with the Vox Machina season 2 and season 1. I just love it. It's kind of steampunky. It's got, you know, magic. It's got myth, legend, and whoever the writers are, given it's based on a game where like
League of Legends,
League of Legends. Which I don't think has much storyline. They've created a world that's really, really, or a storyline, I should say, created a storylines that have been really engaging for me. So yeah, definitely something. But I would never have known about this because I didn't play the game.
Yeah.
Arcane season 1 was spectacular. I'm halfway through season 2. It's one of those I'm savoring as I kind of 1 a week almost.
Right.
We're
taking a break. We will be back for season 2 later on in the year, but we're going to take a break for a little while.
Speaking then of Legends of Vox Machina, that's one I always wish that we had covered. Again, we couldn't, and it makes sense why. But it is a show that just continues to give and give and give and give. They are also in their production for another show, which is called The Mighty Nine, which is another based on another campaign they did. Similar style, similar people, everything.
Yeah, Vox Machina and Mighty Nine are based on Critical Role, the D&D podcasters, effectively, on YouTube, or YouTubers, I guess, who created these campaigns, and now they've turned them into animated shows. Yeah, just in case anybody hasn't heard of them.
As well. And I will go through in my quick pick section later, but very quickly. But yes, absolutely great show.
Really good. And there's been so many other shows that we'd love to have covered last year. A couple of big surprises that came out last year. Guy Ritchie's TV show, The Gentleman, which I thought was really good fun on Netflix. About 8 episodes as well. But such an interesting show. It really got the style of Guy Ritchie and spread it well over 8 episodes.
Exactly. If you like, I mean, that was superb, but in a similar, not a very different vein, but kind of set in the world of Posh Totty, the Rivals. If you kind of like innuendo, slap and tickle.
Yes.
I was kind of pleasantly surprised by this. I thought, this is not something I'm going to like, but it's just very, very easy to consume.
Based on the book by Jilly Cooper.
So novelist.
Guest appearance in there.
Lots of titillating storylines
and full-front nudity in there. We could say that. Not from David Tennant, but he is in there, and he's fantastic as always. That's our David Tennant show of the year as Rivals, and I guess his reappearance in Doctor Who as well.
Guess. And I think the other one, like, I think we've always kind of said this, but it was its final season, Inside Number 9, as that anthology series of dark humor and horror. Just so good.
Absolutely.
So really enjoyed that final season.
Went at such a high. Did so many interesting episodes this season on Inside Number 9 for its final season, the 9th and final season, so why not? When we say 9 seasons, that shocks a lot of people because you'd think that's hundreds of episodes. It's only 6 episodes a season, so it's still bingeable, easily bingeable if you can get access to it. Well worth a watch. It's dark and very funny, and the twists are unbelievable when they come around. Every episode, that it's such a great job of keeping the quality up for all 9 seasons. So fantastic stuff. Another big shocker for the year was a second show based on a video game that was actually excellent.
Fallout.
Yeah.
It just came, I want to say it came out of nowhere, but the video games have been fantastic for years. It is, think, post-apocalyptic, but retro-futuristic. So 60s, 50s, 40s vibe, but with that
I'm gonna say before Chris continues, the video games are not very good. Some people absolutely love them, and I know Chris is a big fan of them, but I am not a big fan of them. So, but go ahead, Chris.
Thank you.
That's why it came out of nowhere for us, because we all said we're not going to cover that. The games have not captured our interest in the past.
I'm actually really pleased that they did do, because it was Jonathan Nolan as well.
Yes.
So, I would watch anything that's got Nolan involvement. And I'm really pleased that he took a video game where I spent 6 hours trying to get out of a bunker and realized that it was so open world. I literally flung the video controller away and was like, this is horrendous. Couldn't do it. Probably chucked a few whiteys as well because it was first person. I cannot handle first person, which I'm also finding out at the moment with the Indiana Jones one, but that I love because I'm actually progressing the storyline, unlike with Fallout. So
we played it in 30-minute increments so that John doesn't fall over.
I don't fall over. I just chuck a whitey and can't look at the screen. But so I'm really pleased that Fallout was done in this way, because I'm like, I really love it. I wish I could play the game.
Yeah, it was for me just fantastic. It's another proof that if you take a property that is well done, so be it Last of Us or this Fallout, and you take something where we know that it has worked in another medium and adapt it correctly.
Yeah,
in the right while with the right amount of love and care, then it works out. And that's what Fallout did.
I think what people forget about the terrible adaptations of video games in the past, what's generally the common denominator has been a director and writer known as Uwe Boll. When he's been involved, he has absolutely destroyed them, but he used to churn them out at such a pace that there was like 1 or 2 a year from him alone, and everybody just went, oh, video game movie. And I played this on my PlayStation. I'll go and watch this, and went, this is terrible. And not realizing it was one person behind all of them. It's like Sony with their Marvel output. It's the same guy behind all of those movies over at Sony. movie, except for the ones that Marvel are involved with, the Spider-Man movies. So but it's just that guy. He's terrible about making movies.
But Fallout, for me, it's classic Jonathan Nolan adaptation, and I see why, like, it could so easily have been done so badly in the same way that the game didn't allow anyone to actually get very far. At least for me, that's like...
You could
it's not my fault I can't get out of a bunker within 6 hours of a gameplay. That's the gamer's coding.
Sure.
But Fallout is intended for people that like playing games for 300 or 400 hours for one game. Yeah. So you get your money's worth, but you didn't want to play more than 6 hours of it because you were stuck in a bunker for the 6 hours.
But it's classic Nolan, because I mean, it's in the same vein as Westworld. It's all what he does is sci-fi really, really, really well.
Absolutely.
And he's got a great palette, and I love this. Absolutely.
Excellent. Anything else from 2024 that we should have covered, or you wish we'd been able to cover, guys?
Yes. Let me very quickly jump into quick Chris picks or Chris's quick picks. You choose. Whichever you prefer. Squid Game Season 2 dropped over on Boxing Day or St. Stephen's Day or the 26th of December, depending on what you and how you celebrate.
Yep.
I have finished it. It is spectacular. If you've enjoyed Season 1, you will enjoy Season 2. Watch it in its natural language with subtitles.
Absolutely.
You get so much more from it. And supposedly Season 3 is coming very soon. They've filmed it very soon, and there are rumors and leaks suggesting less than 6 months. So
they've confirmed it's coming out in 2025, which is great. Yep. So at least we know it's coming. I will say there was a point in towards the end of the season where myself and John looking at each other going, "Oh my God, how much death is in this show?" It recaptured that moment in Season 1, but that had happened in episode 1 of Season 1. By the end of Season 2, I think I was just done with the blood for a while. So I'm glad there's a break until we see Season 3. I wouldn't like to binge the whole show that way.
Definitely worth watching if you've watched Season 1. And if you haven't, go back and watch Season 1 and then kind of go into Season 2. There is a Canadian show. Anyone who has kids, there's a Canadian show called Children Ruin Everything. There are 3 seasons of it. I have discovered it last year. And it is the best 30-minute comedy that you have ever seen. Spectacularly and horribly correct. It is about 2 working parents who have 2 or 3 kids, depending on which season you join. Spoilers. And it is just fantastic. It is just very, very well put together comedy and just amazing.
Very good. Very good. That sounds like, part of the reason why I guess they have that third kid is just like Colin Farrell. After a while, he forgets the pain that he went through to make
you
the penguin.
always forget the pain. Yeah. Everyone forgets the pain. Wanted to very quickly call out a show called Secret Level. It is the one that came out on Prime. It is essentially the video game version animated anthology show from the directors, writers, and producers of Love, Death and Robots.
Yes. Yeah.
Over on Netflix.
Is it worth watching, Chris? When I have a look at the lineup of the video games that are covered on it, I was kind of going, these aren't ones that, as a video gamer today, I would be interested in watching. And I don't know who the audience for them are. It's like things like Pac-Man are in there and old games from the 80s and old games from the 90s that I have no interest in anymore. And then there's a couple of games that I have massive interest in. So is it kind of a pick and choose thing that you just watch whatever one's interested in? Or
remember Star Wars Visions. Think of this as Star Wars Visions, but for slightly for video games, which is there are some good, there's some hits, there's some misses. Overall, it's a hit for me, like that whole package. Yeah. There's definitely 1 or 2 where you're like, but the good thing is they're 15 minutes. Like they're short. You've got some really big names like Keanu Reeves doing voiceover here. Like they definitely got the right stuff for voiceovers to come in, actors coming in and actors coming in. So overall, spectacular. Rounding it out very quickly, Critical Role. We've mentioned Legend of Vox Machina on this. I still watch Critical Role every couple of weeks. Catch up. They're 4 to 5 hour YouTube videos. Wow. It is spectacular. If you enjoy Dungeons and Dragons, if you enjoy long form content, this is definitely for you. And then the final 2, Silo Season 2 has started. It is an Apple show and it is based on the books. very, very good. Season 1 was spectacular. Season 2 is on its way. If you've ever watched Severance, folks, on Apple as well, it is this. No one talks about these shows, but they are just, think HBO level of production, but just really good.
Yeah.
This silo is post-apocalyptic, the people living in a silo. There you go. That's all I need to tell you because it just gets fantastic. And to end it, a strange one from me. The Netflix have a show called The Resident.
Okay.
It is a TV hospital drama.
Okay.
Think of it like this.
Casualty or
think Casualty or
Heartland
Heartland Street or
ER? Or
ER. It's essentially
Grey's
that.
Anatomy, like.
But they've spun on a version of like House where there's this medical thing of how they're going to fix it. But it is some of the best and worst writing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
It is. I can't peel my eyes off it because sometimes I'm like, this is really well put together. Like some of this character development is like on par with the shows we cover. Like we're like, oh my God. And then they'll come out and just have someone has dropped in a line very much like, how could you do this to me? My heart is breaking. And then we'll have a heart attack. And you're like, oh my God, no.
Is this like spelling levels of production? Is it Tori Spelling?
Well, Aaron Spelling.
Aaron Spelling.
Tori was the actor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And Beverly Hills 90210 and stuff. Yeah.
Vince, just look, check it out, folks. Watch a couple. It is bingeable, dirty TV. I think telenovela. This is your Coronation Street for the UK, folks. This is your Real Wives of Atlanta for you US folks. It is just a show where you're like, I don't know. Guys, come back to me. Let me know. I'm not crazy.
But once again, as we always do in TV podcast industries, Chris jumped in and broke the format because the format was what shows would we have hoped to have podcasted about in 2024, not ones that we would have laughed at and not watched again.
I would honestly podcast
we
about
would not have podcasted
but
about
just a season, just to kind of,
that is one
all
we
of
would
us
not
go.
have podcasted about.
Why? Because I could literally take it and go, did you see what they do?
Nope.
Oh my God, they dropped a heart. Guys, like, what would really happen if they dropped a, like, so there you go.
Well, we definitely wouldn't have podcasted on it, Chris. But is there any other show that we would have podcasted on that you would have liked to have podcasted on, John?
I think for me, just in the same vein as the Shogun James Clavell novel, which was always hanging around my house as I grew up because my mum and dad were reading it, and I just saw the size of it and went, I'm not reading that.
Not for me.
Not just yet, anyway. Yeah. When reading was not something that you did, then I think on the other side of that is like I just remember Frederick Forsyth novels, of which Day of the Jackal and its adaptation I've really, really enjoyed, to be honest. In terms of the assassin going about his his work, and I have just really, really enjoyed it. And it's in that same vein. It's, I guess an older, a novel that could quite easily be dated, but just the way it's been adapted and just brought up to, I guess, modern sensibilities has really, really breathed new life into it. And, the Jackal being portrayed by Eddie Redmayne, really cool.
He's fantastic.
Yeah,
and I think
he
you
is.
forget he's an Oscar-winning actor, and then you watch The Jackal and you see all the different roles and parts that he plays in each episode. He's a really good chameleon and a really blank slate when he needs to be as well. What makes him such a good actor, you know? But it's such a great show. Really, really enjoyed Day of the Jackal, and yeah, definitely would have been a show because of the central mystery and what's happening in it. It would have been a great show to podcast throughout the year. Last one for me, just because we never got to podcast it, and it was a show that we loved every single season. I would have loved to have covered Star Trek's Lower Decks final season, because it's been so much fun. That the areas that they get into and the storylines that they have and the Easter eggs that they have throughout all 5 seasons have been so much fun to pick up on. but the cast have also been great to watch. And again, similar to what I said about What If, having that ending, which felt like it was of What If, it wasn't about bringing in a massive universe of Marvel. Star Trek Lower Decks absolutely had the opportunity to bring in every guest star that they possibly could and squeeze them into their final episode. And they made the decision to make it about the characters of Lower Decks and giving them their final send-off, I guess, for the show. And I thought that was a great choice for that season. But it would have been great fun to cover it. And definitely go watch it if you haven't seen it and if you enjoy Star Trek. It's far better than it ever has any right to be.
Story of most of our shows that we want to cover. And you're like, God damn, why are you so good?
Why is it so good? Yes.
There are 2 shows in 2025 which we will not be covering. But we probably think we should talk about them very quickly here because I want to move us forward into this year. But starting off, there is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated show. In what point was the MCU? It was Homecoming. It basically Tom Holland back in his freshman years. And essentially him building his homemade spider suit and all that, and has since been retooled to not be correct. It is essentially an alternate universe take.
Yeah, and I think if you've seen the trailer for it, interestingly, it takes its animation inspiration from the 1960s and 1970s Spider-Man shows. So it's of that style where it's like paper animated. A cartoon, but is not in the MCU. It's not even in the Sonyverse. It's just another Spider-Man story, set with the character of Peter Parker back in high school. So, I didn't think it would fit in with in what we're doing, and because it starts right at the end of January and goes directly into other shows and other bigger shows that we cover. Animated shows don't tend to be stuff that our listeners listen along to, unfortunately. So while I'm sure we'll watch it, Chris, obviously being a big Spider-Man fan, and I'm sure you'll be bringing Miles on your lap to watch every episode of it each week. But I'm not sure whether it's a show that we'd be covering on the podcast here, especially, as I said, with so much coming up later on in the year.
Yeah, it reminds me of My Adventures of Superman, which was the lead star of The Boys, Jack Quaid. It was his DC animated show of Superman.
Yes.
It was definitely interesting, and I took my kid to watch it, but wouldn't have been, even if for a DC show looking at, because it's just not something you could really podcast about, because it does have almost that kid tint. It's not Bad Batch aspect, I would say. But yeah, no, definitely something we can probably wrap up in the end of year, and I'll probably throw my thoughts in throughout the rest of the year as things happen. For example, Norman Osborn's being introduced in it. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting because people are like, well, that's what he is in this show is going to be what he is in the MCU. We will very much see and wait till Spider-Man 4. But there you go, Pete.
But they have confirmed that Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man has no connection to the MCU right now. Anything that you see in there, you won't see in the MCU right now. There's nothing to take out of it. It's the understanding. The reason why I clarify that is because the other TV show that we're not covering is on the DC side. Creature Commandos is the first show from James Gunn's new universe. We talked about the Batman. We talked about the Penguin. They're going to be Elseworld stories. They're not going to fit into this central universe. And interestingly, James Gunn decided to start off his DC universe with Creature Commandos being the first show set in the universe. Again, partly because of the time of year it's coming out and all the other shows that we're covering, partly because animated shows don't tend to be ones that a lot of people listen to that listen to the podcast, we decided not to cover it. But having watched the episodes, they're good, they're fine, they do feel very James Gunn, very action heavy. Wow, if I see another animated leg fly off somebody's body from a bullet, I'll have had enough of it. But mostly the episodes are origin stories for characters I don't actually think we're going to see in the DC universe. Each episode takes its premise of the team going in, and it kind of flashes back to who they are and how they got to be on this position. It feels very like like James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I'd recommend checking it out, definitely, but it's not something that I'd be hugely interested in looking at now. I think maybe we can talk about the connections when we do look at some of the DC movies down the line that are coming up in the next couple of years. We'd probably see more connections once we've seen them looking back at Creature Commandos. But at the moment, I just don't think it would be as enjoyable to podcast about. And again, we've got lots coming up. So we've chosen not to cover Creature Commandos. But interestingly, they have already mentioned a couple of the DC shows that are not supposed to be part of James Gunn's universe. They did mention the Suicide Squad in Creature Commandos episode 1. So making that canon in the new James Gunn universe. They also mentioned Peacemaker as well, which makes it canon into this universe. So there's some interesting discussion to be had there. But beyond that, it's a fun animated show, similar in vein to Harley Quinn, which was a good fun DC show, but of course from the same creator, so that was also to be expected.
Agreed. But we have a host of shows in 2025.
Yes, we do. Chris, you and me are up first in February. From February 6th, we will be back with Invincible Season 3, the third season, with episodes coming out once a week for the entire season this time. No break.
Yeah. And it is going to be good. We know we've seen the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer, check it out. Mm-hmm. Not the teaser where they're sitting around again, because they love playing that Burger Mart teaser.
They certainly do.
But check it out. It is definitely one. But then that leads us directly into one of what is going to be, I have high hopes for, to kick off the year, Captain America, Brave New World.
Mm-hmm. Anthony Mackie back in the role this time. Harrison Ford. Yeah, taking over the role from William Hurt of Thaddeus Ross. But very cool to see Harrison Ford in here. And been great fun to see him on the press tours, completely ignoring all the nerd questions again, because he's going, I have 40 years of experience of you nerds. I can handle it for the MCU as well.
Yes, and Giancarlo Esposito. So it is going to be, I can only imagine, a rip-roaring fun time. Mm-hmm. If it's on level of Civil War or Winter Soldier, time will tell. And that's what I'm here for, February 14th. Valentine's Day, take your loved ones.
Carry on directly from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So if you haven't seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier since it came out, go back and watch at least the last couple of episodes to find out where Sam Wilson's story ended at the end of that season. Yeah.
And then go back and listen to our podcast on TV Podcast Industry's feed and get all your info and get all the information and know how wrongly we were in predicting what might happen next.
Yeah, we're always terrible at that.
I really do hope that this is kind of like, Civil War, Winter Soldier type level.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think and I mean, I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for Daredevil Born Again as well, as indeed 10 years ago we did Defenders TV podcast where we did the Marvel Netflix, starting with Daredevil.
That's right.
And I just cannot wait to see another big podcast that we had, and I can't wait to get back into the world of Daredevil.
10 years on, it's amazing, isn't it? I think if I remember rightly, this week 10 years ago we were watching the Daredevil movie to get ourselves ready for the Daredevil TV show, because we did podcast about that as well. So
I know we did.
Yeah, we're getting ourselves ready for Daredevil. I saw the Twitter anniversary come up last week, so we set that up in December. And then started the podcast in January, and then we're podcasting on Daredevil by March. So Daredevil Born Again, and the first season of 2, apparently, coming out from March 4th, 2025. That's all we know right now. We don't know how the episodes are dropping, but expected to be weekly as they come out as well.
Then moving back to Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the next season, season 3, March 13th, gentlemen. Assuming it's going to probably be a 2-3 episode drop and then moving to weekly as they did last season.
Like Prime Video does, yeah.
Prime Videos is one kind of their staple now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're back with Randall Thor on the tower along with Nynaeve and Egwene and all of the other Aes Sedai. It is going to be fun.
Yep.
I have continued my read through, I am very happy to see what they have done.
I need to work on my pronunciations of those characters again, because I think as you were saying them, I was going, is that how we pronounced them last time or not? It is, and you got it right. Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Because I've checked myself and I've been reading them and I'm like, I'm saying it my old way in my head, and I'm like, no, it is Aes Sedai. I'm like,
very good. And talk about an embarrassment of riches. Announced today the second season of one of our favorite shows that we've covered on the podcast here, The Last of Us season 2, is coming out in April. Confirmed. No date yet. The teaser trailer, which revealed Abby, just came out last night with just attached. It's coming in April. So we'll be seeing that around the same time, which is really interesting. Cannot wait to get back to that show and can't wait to see how they tackle this second season. There's only been 2 games. Expectation that there's at least 3 seasons of The Last of Us, potentially 4 if there's a third game made. So so The Last of Us Part 2 will be spread across 2 seasons is the understanding, but we'll see that as it gets released. But so excited to see that show back.
Absolutely. Then we go on to Thunderbolts, which is in May, which will be interesting. This
Thunderbolts asterisks. Asterisks.
Don't forget the asterisks. Very important.
I know. But, yes, this ragtag band that we're going to have, which I'm kind of looking forward to seeing it.
Do you know, we said after we saw the episode of What If with the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier, if they get a bit of that banter between those 2 characters that they captured in that episode of What If, I'm so excited. I'm even more excited for Thunderbolts asterisks than I have been so far. I hope we don't have to say that for very long. I hope that's cleared up on the first day, that this is just Winter Soldier versus the Thunderbolts is what it was going to be called or something. But let's see how it goes.
Sure. That's something, isn't it? I guess.
Even more Marvel coming as we finally have the release of Ironheart, which has been in the planning since 2023. It was supposed to release, coming out this year, featuring Riri Williams, who got her first outing in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So really excited to see that. She featured in What If, as we discussed a couple of days ago.
And I have to say, I am now really looking forward to this. I was kind of actually almost like, I don't know what to expect here, and I was a bit meh, because I'm not entirely sure Riri Williams and Ironheart as a character blew me away from the Black Panther 2 movie. Yeah, she was great in it. It was no problem, but it wasn't like I didn't immediately think, oh, I need a TV series on this character. But I have to say, the What If episode with Riri Williams and with Mysterio was really, really good. And I was like, okay, I really kind of got into the character from that episode, plus the 1872 episode, because that reminded me that it is in this that we're going to get the hood.
That's right.
And I really hope they give me the hood that I want.
I think you are. I think you're getting the demonic hood based on that show.
Yeah.
And What If, because you remember, the show has been delayed multiple times.
Yeah.
And the reason the hood was in What If was he was expected to be a known quantity. Exactly. They were, expected to be a known quantity as an enemy as a villain. So it's very interesting to see. I'm more interested for that. I'm interested to see how this character is portrayed. And very interested to see where Riri comes out of it.
Absolutely. I mean, if they can do with the hood what they did with Doctor Strange's cloak, given like how they made that a character, especially in Multiverse of Madness, especially even in the What Ifs, I think that's kind of it'll be interesting,
Evil cloak.
Evil cloak.
Yes. So that's coming out on June 24th. Again, we don't know how many episodes are in that season just yet. I think it's 8, maybe 10, but we'll see as that show comes out. And we're back at the cinema again for another Fantastic Four movie. This time, the MCU's first attempt at the Fantastic Four, called First Steps, coming out July 25th. Great cast, excellent looking cast, but we have been there before on Defenders TV podcast. We did cover Fantastic Four, or Fan Four Stick, which was our lowest rated movie I think we ever covered, because we never covered the Elektra movie. It was our lowest rated movie, or the Blade movie. We never covered either of those on the podcast here. Fantastic Four had everything going for it at the time. A great director, a great idea of the body horror, a great cast, including the future Killmonger, and failed miserably. So we are trepidatious about it, but this is an MCU movie, and they tend to have a pretty high batting average with us.
Yeah. I mean, I think it will it will be very different from Fantastic Four.
Yes,
stick.
it will be. It will be.
I think I need to decide whether I actually like the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
I think that's my bigger issue. And like, it's not that I don't like them, but they're just the characters I can get least excited about. I don't mind them in things. Like, I love the cameo of Reed Richards there in Multiverse of Madness, and his spaghettification. So it's not that
it's interesting because this is Marvel's first family. They were the first super family that was in the Marvel universe. They've always tried to make them as a central hook for the movies. And interestingly, where they failed really is that the rights were owned by a different studio who had to make a movie. They made a really shoddy movie that is only available on YouTube, Roger Corman's version of the Fantastic Four, and that ruined the Fantastic Four live action for many years. They tried it again with 2 other movies, which were poorly received, giving us Chris Evans in his first big starring role as the Human Torch, and then, as I said, then Fan Four Stick. So they've failed a number of times to capture what is essential about this family of Fantastic Four. But if you have read comics over the last couple of years, the major characters of the Fantastic Four have played such a big role in all of the events. Yeah. They are essential to the universe of Marvel working,
Absolutely.
And I hope they get it right.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of hope for it.
And I have to say, I like them in the sense that I absolutely adore their antagonist, which is Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom, of course.
So that is what I like. So I hope that Doctor Doom comes in and kills them all and then stays on in the MCU.
Well, the other good thing to hope for...
Doctor Doom wins. Imagine the shock. First baby steps, cut off evilly by Doctor Doom.
Well, given that we know that Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom, that's possibly a way they could go here. But another thing that does give me hope for the show is that it's coming from the pen of Matt Shakman, who wrote WandaVision. Yeah. And of course, did such a great job running that show that he's been elevated into the MCU movies. Something that we can hope that will happen to Jack Schaefer in the future after her work on Agatha All Along.
Yeah. Directly after that, we do get another animated show, Eyes of Wakanda.
Yeah.
Which is an anthology, to my understanding. It's an anthology series set in Wakanda. Different stories across the history of Wakanda. What that means, whether it's different time periods, I've just seen some snippets and I'm in. This looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
Well, the animated style definitely is different from what we've seen from What If in the past and from the other animated show that's coming directly after. But it's a 4-episode show as well, so it seems to be 4 different time periods set within Wakanda, which would be very interesting to see. So that's coming August 6th. Then back again in October, Marvel Zombies spinning out of What If, the zombie episodes of the first 2 seasons of What If. They've now got their own show.
Yes, I want to eat your brains and gain your knowledge.
There you go. There you go. I would love to see if Robert Kirkman of Walking Dead fame was involved in this production of Marvel Zombies. I know he wasn't involved in What If, but he was the real creator of Marvel Zombies in the comic books. He had that great concept of effectively, as they eat, they're still able to talk. So the more they eat, the more they retain their knowledge and are able to talk and are able to interact with each other. So having superheroes who are zombified but are trying to make a plan to get rid of the zombieism around themselves by eating other humans and eating other superheroes to keep their power going is a cool idea. So I wonder if they'll reach into that in Marvel Zombies cartoon or animated show.
Seeing Spider-Man knock on Mary Jane, gonna be good. So Captain in the comics, and it was gross. They're gonna do the exact same thing in this animated. I positively tell you.
Fresh.
I'm really looking forward to this. Who doesn't like a good old zombie coming in around Halloween time?
Absolutely. And then the final one coming out from Marvel next year is something that suddenly became massively interesting when they released the trailer. Wonder Man, coming out in December 2025, has been a bit of a joke of a character. He's appeared in some big scenes in big moments in comic books, but has never really been a major character. And then suddenly Trevor Slattery, played by Sir Ben Kingsley, arrives in the trailer, and everybody, including us, went, I can't wait to see that show. Does it have to come out in December next year? Can it be out in January next year?
And where's the flying bottom dog?
From Shang-Chi, yes, of course. That's going to be such an interesting idea for a show. Wonder Man is an actor in the Marvel universe. That's the character in the comic book. So the idea of having the only other actor that we know in the Marvel universe as Trevor Slattery, giving him guidance, is a great little trick that they've pulled there.
It's going to be fun, but that does end the known shows
universe.
Mm-hmm.
The known TVPI verse.
Yeah.
Well, mostly because Marvel have released all of their dates for the year. Most of the shows that we cover and movies that we cover don't release their dates this far in advance. So we have lots of shows that we think are coming, and we did this last time, and most of them were pushed out by a year. But there are other shows that we think are coming next year.
Yes. First up is season 4 of The Witcher. So we have seen the new Geralt of Rivia in the shape of Liam Hemsworth, but we have not a date yet of when he will be taking over that role from
that is true.
Henry Cavill.
And we haven't seen him in a bath.
No, but I'm sure they will 100%
my
do
judgment is still to be made up.
This is the 4th of 5 seasons, so there's only 2 seasons left to go. 4th of 5 seasons. So Liam Hemsworth taking over for the last 2 seasons of the show after Henry Cavill has moved on.
And apparently an in-canon reason why he will be different. They're not just going to just start up the episode and make him look different. Supposedly. How they do this will be interesting.
Given how many potions there are that transform normal villagers into massive monsters, I'm sure a potion that Geralt takes to make him slightly younger and slightly less built. But maybe Liam Hemsworth is as built as his brother is now. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yep. Well, time will tell.
Only a couple of months, though, I'm sure. Actually, looking at our lineup for the year, I think it's actually probably going to come out in April because we have 5 other shows to cover at that time. But as we mentioned earlier on, the Boys, the spin-off Gen V, that's been alternating with The Boys each year. The first season of Gen V came out 2 years ago. Second season expected to come out this year in 2025. It has finished filming already. That's been confirmed. So it's just the post-production work to be done, depending on how much there is. I suspect we'll be seeing that around August or September of 2025.
No Boys season 5, as you mentioned. It's not planned, but they have begun filming.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be a 2026. But maybe they'll throw a couple of cameos into season 2 of Gen V based on how the final season of The Boys previous just ended. We did get some cameos there, so I'm expecting crossover as well.
Yeah, there were a few cameos in Gen V season 1 as well, so you'd expect to see some of the cast back in season 2 of Gen V.
And then we are going to the Star Wars galaxy for Ahsoka season 2 at some point.
Yes.
No date yet.
This is the one I'm expecting a bit further out.
Yeah, a bit further out in 2025.
Yeah. It might be 2026 as well.
But it could be early 2026.
Yeah.
But equally to see how Grand Admiral Thrawn will pulverize the remaining elements of the rebellion.
Yeah. But the big thing that Ahsoka has to accomplish, it is part of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie in that universe. So we expect that season 2 will come out before that movie comes out. There's plot points that have to pull all these characters together. So
it's got a lot of linkages to sort of cement it for sure.
I feel we'll have anything Star Wars related. We're going to have a definitive timelines post March. I think that's where they'll kind of tell us everything.
Yeah. It's dropping tomorrow. Drop everything. It's coming.
No, they can't. It's also going to where we find out the future of what possibly might be Star Wars universe going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we only have 2 known so far, which is Andor and Ahsoka season 2s.
Exactly. Yeah, Andor season 2 is coming out in April 22nd, 2025. Now, we didn't cover the first season, and given when Andor is coming out, it's unlikely we're going to be able to cover Andor at the same time weekly. I think we started our Star Wars coverage to cover Andor, and then Ahsoka was announced. So, unfortunately, it looks like once again we're not going to be able to cover when it comes out. But I think we hopefully will be able to find a slot where we can watch it back and do a one-off coverage like we're going to be doing with the Skeleton Crew next week.
Yeah, let's hope, because it is great.
And the last show that is almost definitely coming out in April of this year is The Sandman Season 2. Fully finished production in 2024. Lots of post-production to do to that show on Netflix. But the one interesting part of how Netflix have created The Sandman for its second season, they've said they're not going to release it all in one day. They're going to release it in portions. So it's going to be released in arcs. We expect that to mean it's going to be 3 episodes at a time, making up a 12-episode season or 11-episode season. So something like that, 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes at a time to tell the story, which is a great way to do a show like The Sandman, which can be seen as kind of an anthology series with an overarching central character in Dream of the Endless. So whatever way they release it, I'm here for it. I can't wait to see the rest of The Sandman story told in live action. It'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, if it's anything like season 1, really looking forward to it.
We'll be there for it. We'll be there for it. Excellent stuff. That's so much stuff that we're going to be covering in 2025. A quick bit of feedback in from our wonderful fellow industrialists over on our Facebook group. First up, just a quick poll that I did on all the shows we covered last year. The top 3 shows in descending order. Number 1 show of the year from our fellow defenders was Marvel's Agatha All Along.
Okay.
20% of the vote. Wildly spread, interestingly, across all the rest of the shows. But our joint second show is Shogun and the Penguin.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very good, huh?
Very good. It's relatively level pegging, I think, apart from Agatha All Along at 20%. Otherwise, they're all kind of within a few percentage points of one another.
Number 3 is 10 Boy Detectives, joint with The Boys Season 4 and The Bad Batch final season, and Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine. So those are the fourth ones. So
wow. Okay, I would not have called that.
No,
there you go. Widespread.
Again, showing the diversity of our audience, and
exactly.
We cover a few things, and our audience are in for certain shows, out for different other shows. But glad they still majority join us here at TV Podcast Industries.
Absolutely. Yeah, a bit of feedback in from Brendy Mueller, who says, I found you just this year, so I'm a bit of a newbie. I was able to listen to some along with you and some from the past to catch up on what I missed. I love the pub quizzes. I love that you make us feel part of the TV podcast industry family. Keep up the great work. I came for the boys and ended up finding Invincible, WandaVision and Agatha All Along. I can't wait to see what you convince me to watch in 2025, just so I can listen to what you guys talk about. Thanks, Brendy.
Thank you so much, Brendy. That's really nice of you. Glad you enjoy the pub quizzes, and I'm glad you feel part of the TVPI family.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, yeah. We also got a quick message from Felipe as well. Felipe says, 2024 was a great year. I just didn't follow 2 of the shows you podcasted about, but I also wanted to ask if there was a show or movie you would have liked to cover last year, but because of scheduling, you couldn't.
There you go.
Can't wait to see which shows you'll be covering in 2025. Well, I hope, Felipe, you'll be coming along with us on the journey for some of our 2025 coverage for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Loads and loads of shows. Hopefully we've answered your question to your satisfaction with all of our ramblings over the course of this this podcast right here. And thanks so much to all the rest of the TV podcast industry family who've joined us over the course of this year and the last 10 years of podcasting as well. It's been great fun chatting to you about all of the shows that we've been covering over the years. And interestingly, we have one final email, Chris. You'll love this one. This comes in from Neil Schnarnick, who just sent a message to us literally this evening when we were recording our wrap-up podcast. He says, hello, Defenders. I'm just reaching out because I was listening to your review of Jessica Jones 203, Season 2, Episode 3, and John was describing a promotion access to Wolverine scripted podcast, I believe, and Derek said, unless you're listening in 2025, shoot, no free podcast for me. I've listened to hundreds of your episodes over the years, and the fact that I'm getting to them late means they serve as a sort of time capsule. Favorite prognostications from me. Chris had a delightful swing and miss in episode 200 where he said the Marvel Netflix shows would never be on Disney+. He added, we're never going to get Deadpool in the MCU at all. It's just not going to happen. Derek sagely brought up the fact that this is not Walt Disney's Disney anymore and that these shows could get moved to Disney's service and password protected. But to give Chris his due, he predicted in episode 100 that LA would serve as a comic counterpoint to the far more serious New York City in the MCU. This was long before LA would serve as the location for She-Hulk She-Hulk, Marvel's first true comedy series, and he even mentioned Wonder Man. Well done, Chris. Keep it up, fellas. And hello from Wisconsin. Thanks, Neil.
Hey, Neil. Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic.
That is
Yeah,
amazing.
good stuff, Neil.
Also, Derek, yes, I know you are Mr. Business. That is fair. You understand
He is
that.
very sage.
You are a sage man.
Hey, I said 100,000,000% chance that there will be no Shogun season 2, and there will definitely be no Penguin season 2, and both of those are coming, so I'm not always right.
Always.
Maybe I was more right back in those days.
Yes.
But what a great piece of feedback. Thanks so much, Neil, for that.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
Keep getting in contact with us. You can keep emailing us into feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or join us over on that Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. We're also over on Blue Sky and on Threads as well. You can find us over there at TV Podcast Industries.
Yes, and if you love what you hear and you have followed along this year, last year, and you plan on following us in 2025, why not also head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, where you can help us keep the lights and mics running with an ongoing donation of any amount just to help us keep going. It means that the servers, the little hamster in the server, we can feed him every couple of weeks. It keeps us helping. But if you want to help the other hamster in our technical department, Derek, if you want to keep him in caffeine, why not head on over to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI, where you can buy Derek a coffee, and it will actually really keep him caffeinated as he edits away into the wee hours, editing our concise ramblings into even conciser ramblings. Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much. Can't wait to chat to you all in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, and we'll be back with our podcast on the Skeleton Crew. But until then, fellow industrialists, keep watching, keep listening, and keep getting excited about 2025.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.